sharing dekat ILC apa first time second kan Puan
Ya,
Mazurina,
apa dia?
you are the
Kurang jelas.
you are the second time
This is
sharing
my
in
first
here.
time.
Oh, first time tu. Therefore, jadi ini Pak Lim pun the first time
First time,
juga.
ya.
Okay. Jadi saya sama-sama belum pernah jumpa dan kenal sebelumnya. But with the digital right now, we can to introduce and friendly. Okay. Right now, I will to inform you that if this event not conference but international share series, share lectures. Therefore, the RLC event get the I think the tagline is REF, relax, enjoy, and fun. Therefore, you must be to relax and enjoy. Don't worry, be happy.
Ya.
This event not conference, jadi you kena minum, jangan boleh minum bulan puasa. Jadi you kena enjoy saja. Sebab nanti pun selepas the first speakers sharing and the second, kita ada the song by video for refreshing. Jadi itu yang membuat beza conference dengan kita punya ini. Jadi kita tidak mau suntuk lah atau boring lah. Kita nak enjoy. Kalau orang Malaysia kata silaturahmi knowledge with the fun and happy and happiness. Macam itu sajalah. Okay, therefore the itinerary atau the agenda atau rundown itu 5 sahaja. Yang pertama, welcoming speak from me is CEO ASEAN Lecturer Community. And the second, there is short video about ALC. Jadi kalau orang Malaysia bilang, benda apa satu itu ALC. Jadi boleh lihat nanti di short video ya, Puan Mazurina, benda apa itu. You can to look the board of trustee from many countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, Vietnam, and so on. And then the third, we go to quiz sharing session. If you ask who the speaker will be to sharing first, you can to look the your name alphabet A to Z, who's early LM, L Lim, M Mazurina. Therefore, the L must be to sharing first. There not about my friendly friend or nepotism, not, but with the your name based of alphabet. Okay, every speaker sharing 30 to 35 minutes, and then you can use English, can use Malay language and Indonesia bahasa, no problem. You boleh campur-campur juga, because ketiga-tiga bahasa ini kita paham lah. Tapi jangan guna bahasa Jawa, bahasa Arab, Tagalog, saya tak faham juga. Okay, kemudian the fourth, we go to question answer. Nah, therefore the participant can use chat box for to share question answer, but to my email address no problem. Sebab usually student ni nak enak hati nanya pada pensyarah dia sendiri, dia hantar email saja dekat saya with nickname. I will to read the question. Okay, last closing remark. Okay, now let's we start this event with the prayer first. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much. The first welcoming speech from me. Sekali lagi saya mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih, bahkan jutaan terima kasih kepada Associate Prof. Dr. Mazurina, karena dia sedang sibuk-sibuknya the early semester dan dia punya anak kecil juga masuk sekolah, jadi hantar sana hantar sini. Saya sampai 3 kali minta dia punya masa ni ya. Jadi baru boleh. Thank you very much for you join. I am the friendly of Mr. Ridwan, Mr. Agus Burda, and many lecturer in Rawamangun community ya, karena kampusnya dekat Rawamangun. Okay, thank you once more for the my student too, student from STA Indonesia too, and then from usually Sultan Thai join too, and many lecturer too, and whoever interesting with this STEM. Okay, right now we go to the second agenda, in the opportunities. Puan Mazurina, kalau lihat nama Bapak Lim ini atau Encik Lim Hendra SA ini di Indonesia dipahami SA ini sarjana ekonomi, kemudian MSI ini Magister Science. Di sini kemudian CPA tahulah Certificate Public Accounting kot. Okay, Pak Lim, you are the first speaker right now. Time is yours.
Okay,
Tidak.
okay, thank you. Yeah.
Very
This slide?
clear screen with the red color, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
new rule of accountant.
Okay, let me introduce myself. The
Yeah.
new role of accountant. I want to introduce myself. My name is Lim Hendra. I'm lecturer in STI Indonesia. I have graduation from the STI Indonesia for degree and Trisakti University for master, and now I'm still a student in doctoral in university in Trisakti. I have holding some certification, tax consultant, standard accounting, chartered accountant, and certified public accountant, and so on. Now I want to sharing about the new role of accounting. The accounting profession, now we have a new role of accounting and also the digitalization of accounting profession. We have to collaboration with another profession to increase our profession actually. The new role of accountant, I call unique role for accountant because the accountant can adapt it to meet these new demands. For now, we talk about ESG, we talk about integrated reporting, all the things about ESG, administrative and also audit, do it by the accountant. Assurer of the ESG accountants have a position to start in Indonesia. Di Indonesia sekarang sudah mulai terutama di IAPI, Certified Public Accountant, membuka sebuah forum discussion untuk membahas soal assurer terhadap sustainability reporting. Di sini saya mau membahas tentang the new role dari accountant itu sendiri. Jadi tidak cuma bagaimana membuat laporan keuangan, sekarang kita sudah memiliki peranan penting lain, yaitu di sustainability reporting. Unique role-nya, the accountant process the skill and experience to help transform organization through their abilities. Pertama, identifying and managing financial risks and opportunities. Understanding the impact of ESG on financial planning and strategies. Connecting with senior leadership and other function to make the business case, understanding and applying criteria for the governance and interpretation of the data, providing the rigor and skepticism needed to analyze data to report on performance, and providing credibility through internal control and assurance. This is the unique role of accountant yang kedepannya akan semakin luas menyentuh ranah ESG. Jadi nggak cuma terkait dengan accounting standar yang terus berubah, tapi juga bagaimana profesi akuntan itu beradaptasi terhadap hal yang baru dari ESG dalam sustainability reporting. In order to improve ESG performance and reporting, organization need to invest a significant amount of resource such as financial and human capital. And such investment may not have an immediate effect on the company's financial performance. Betul. Sekarang untuk meningkatkan performance dari ESG sendiri, bagaimana perusahaan itu harus memikirkan dampaknya, nggak cuma terkait dengan profit. Perusahaan harus melakukan investasi terhadap human capitalnya, supaya orang-orang yang ada di dalam entity tersebut dapat mengimplementasikan tujuan dari perusahaan yang memberikan dampak yang lebih luas, tidak cuma mengenai profit. Nah, untuk itu dibutuhkan significant amount of resource, termasuk keuangan maupun human capital. Human capital bisa dengan training dan lain sebagainya terkait dengan ESG, bagaimana membuat laporan sustainability reporting yang benar, yang tidak cuma melakukan disclosure uh, uh, saja, tetapi bagaimana activity yang ada itu memberikan dampak yang signifikan terhadap stakeholder yang lebih luas. Di sini ada sustainability finance, certified sustainability finance. Di Indonesia itu kerjasama antara Ikatan Akuntan Indonesia dengan ACCA, itu ada ujian sustainability finance, dan juga sekarang ada assurance services for sustainability reporting. Jadi sustainability reporting tidak hanya dilaporkan, tetapi sekarang sudah mulai kita melakukan asur. Dan memang itu sudah dari awal tahun 2000 sudah ada jasa untuk melakukan assurance services atas sustainability reporting itu sendiri. Untuk certified sustainability finance, sustainability is the one of the burning issues of our times and is an issue that is relevant regardless of where we live and how we earn our living. An organization are rebuilding from the pandemic. There is a growing desire for a transformative and sustainable global recovery, which is providing a fresh focus for organization to drive forward their position in relation to sustainability. Accountants and finance professionals have an important part to play helping organizations adopt the sustainable practices required to prevent resource depletion, facilitate long-term success, and build a more sustainable future. Contribute to the governance roadmap toward zero emission by 2016. Di Indonesia, pemerintah menetapkan zero emission di 2060. Jadi, bagaimana setiap entitas bisa melakukan kontribusi dengan menerapkan dan juga mengimplementasikan aktivitas terkait dengan ESG dan juga isu-isu yang terkait dengan SDGs, sehingga apa yang menjadi target dari pemerintah itu dapat dikontribusikan juga oleh perusahaan. Kalau kita lihat di sini ada Indonesia Roadmap Net Zero Emission, di mana di 2060 emisi karbon itu berkurang sekitar 1.526 juta ton. Ya, ini tidak akan bisa dicapai. Target ini tidak akan bisa dicapai tanpa kontribusi dari masing-masing stakeholders, termasuk perusahaan. Nah, untuk dapat mengimplementasikan itu semua, otomatis perusahaan juga harus punya human capital yang memadai. Salah satunya ya ikut training sustainability finance atau mungkin certified sustainability reporting practices, sehingga memiliki kemampuan bagaimana menyusun, memberikan arahan dari segala aktivitas yang ada di perusahaan, sehingga entitas dapat berkontribusi terhadap sesuatu yang lebih luas yang menjadi target dari suatu negara. Contohnya di Indonesia, roadmap-nya net zero emission di 2060. Nggak bisa berdiri sendiri, pemerintah harus dibantu oleh entitas sebagai bagiannya. Kira kita berbicara terkait dengan sustainability reporting assurer. Tadi kita sudah bicara tentang sustainability finance. Sekarang kita bicara tentang sustainability reporting assurer. Jadi kenapa sih sustainability assurance itu diperlukan? Salah satunya untuk mengevaluasi bagaimana organisasi menentukan kunci sustainability isunya mereka sendiri. Jadi kita melakukan address atas evaluasi hal tersebut. How well it understand this issue, the basis for this understanding, and what it's doing to respond to them, to evaluate the reliability of sustainability performance information. Assurance service sendiri itu harus dilakukan oleh independent professional, that improve information quality or its context. Assurance service reduce the information risk that the information provided is incorrect. The major purpose of assurance service is to provide independent and professional opinion that improve the quality of information to management as well as other decision makers. Jadi, independent assurer dibutuhkan untuk menguji dan melakukan assessment serta memberikan opini atau statement atas sustainability reporting yang sudah dibuat oleh manajemen. Apakah topik materialitas yang diangkat sudah tepat sesuai dengan core business perusahaan? apakah aksi dan kegiatan yang telah dilakukan selama satu periode itu telah mencerminkan yang telah dilaporkan. Jadi kita butuh evidence dan lain sebagainya dari sisi environment, social, governance. Jadi semua hal tersebut kita harus buktikan, sama seperti halnya audit, tetapi ini memang berbeda. Kalau audit itu untuk financial reporting, sedangkan assurance ini non-financial reporting. Standarnya pun yang digunakan berbeda. Apa saja perbedaannya? Di sini kita bisa lihat perbedaan antara audit and assurance services. Audit compliance to financial reporting standard and international auditing standard. But assurance compliance to sustainability, GRI, SASB. In Indonesia, we have a POJK 51 and assurance standard like AA 1000 AS. And audit purposes for general audit for financial statement, and assurance services for sustainability reporting. In audit, we know about the reasonable assurance, but in assurance, we use the AA 1000 AS. There are type 1 and type 2. Type 1 review information and context. Type 2 review type 1 and sustainability performance. We will assess about the process. We will assess about the procedure. We will assess about calculation. All of the calculation that related to the emission. Sometimes we hire expert to assess the calculation of the emission. And AA 1000 AS also concerned about a moderate and high level. This is regarding the depth of evidence. In audit, we know the auditor give an audit opinion, supported by the evidence, and also in assurance, we give the assurance statement and including recommendation. Some significant recommendation put in the assurance statement, In detail of the recommendation, we put in and give to the management letter to improve the process of finding, communicate to the board of director or those just with governance to make improvement in the next year. Why should accountant be changed? Accountant always says that accounting involves professional judgment. There is no possibility to change accountant profession. But big data and artificial intelligence will replace accountant professional judgment. Big data and artificial intelligence will help accountant professional judgment by effectively and efficiently. Jadi kita tidak bisa sebagai accountant, kita sudah mulai beradaptasi dengan kondisi. Dari dulu kita cuma fokus pada financial reporting, sekarang kita sudah fokus pada sustainability reporting, di mana dalam sustainability reporting kita sudah tidak hanya bicara mengenai materiality, financial materiality, tapi kita juga bicara terkait dengan stakeholders materiality. Ya, kedepannya juga teknologi semakin canggih, digitalisasi semakin canggih, otomatis accountant harus menerima ini sebagai tantangan, challenging. Ya, tantangan dan juga opportunity buat bagi sebagian orang kalau di dalam risk management ada negative risk and positive risk. Negative risk ya risk sesungguhnya. Positive risk adalah opportunity. Tinggal kita memandang itu sebagai opportunity atau sebagai risiko. Nah, di sini kita mencoba melihat ke dalam diri dan juga potensi untuk kolaborasi dengan tim yang lain, misalkan dari IT dan lain sebagainya, untuk bagaimana bisa mengembangkan profesi akuntan itu sendiri. Di sini salah satunya adalah yang saya juga sedang kembangkan, yaitu audit tools. Audit tools, risk-based audit yang dibangun di sini, audit toolsnya namanya One Audit. Bagaimana? Di sini akan saya coba besarkan. Bagaimana audit tools ini bekerja? Ya, how the logic risk-based audit works to identify matters and risk, and how the tools help the auditors to address risk and respond riskily. First, risk assessment, understanding business client. Obtain understanding client business process and risk, including accounting process and internal control deficiency. Example, lack profitability or quality earning and poor of economic outlook. After we understanding the business client, we know that the entity lack profitability and quality earning and poor of economic outlooks. This is the result of our assessment when we try to understanding a business client. After assessment, we find out the matters. From the lack profitability, the matters economy factor X that may create liquidity issues or pressure to report favorable result. We find out the matters from the risk, and then in the risk assessment, we make a judgment cycle and assertion. From the economic factor axis that may create liquidity issues or pressure to report the favorable result, they may issue of the revenue cycle from the assertion of existence or occurrence assertion. We find out the matters, we find out the assertion, and we find out the risk identified. The risk fictitious customers create to conceal fraud and sales include fraudulent transactions. From the risk that we already identified, we try to respond the risk by substantive additional procedure to test existence or occurrence assertion. From the fictitious customers create to conceal fraud and sales include fraudulent transaction, we make additional procedure to obtain and scan the sales journal for at least the last quarter of the period. Select item for the testing lots amount, etc. This is the response of the risk that we already identified in the assessment risk. After that, we conduct the substantive testing procedure, we got the result. What is the result? We put the result in report. In Indonesia, auditors already revised the standard audit for the standard audit 700 regarding the audit opinion. For the limited company that listed in the market, the auditors should put the matters, key of matters in the audit opinion. So with these audit tools, we can identify the process of the risk-based audit. We identified risk based on risk assessment. After we know the risk, we try to find out the matters, the assertion, the cycle, and how to respond to the risk. After that, the result, the reporting will cover the key of the matters that we have to inform in our audit opinion. That's how the logic risk work in the audit tools. Jadi sudah tidak bisa manual lagi kita melakukan audit. Jadi kita harus melakukan proses audit secara terintegrasi dengan logic audit berbasis resiko. Yang ini sebetulnya bisa juga diimplementasikan untuk kuliah praktikum audit. Minimal mahasiswa tahu logic dari risk-based audit itu sendiri. Ini terkait dengan audit. Ada juga terkait dengan related to the assurance sustainability reporting tools. Jadi in practice in Indonesia, untuk penyusunan sustainability reporting, ada beberapa software yang digunakan sebagai database perusahaan untuk membuat sustainability reporting sesuai dengan standar yang dipakai. If the company use the JRI, they put all the JRI in the system, all the information in the system. Jika terkait dengan SASB juga sama. If related to the SASB, they put information that required in the SASB standard. Ya, kalau ini adalah logic yang digunakan untuk assurance sustainability reporting tools di SR Asia Grade. Jadi sama seperti audit, understanding business client, process, control, compliance of regulation, business risk, stakeholders concern. Dari understanding business client, we try to review context sustainability reporting and identify materiality topic client. Apa yang menjadi materiality topic dari sustainability reporting tersebut, dari entitas tersebut. After that, we assess with our assessment. We try to assess the topic materiality, and we compare the topic materiality that already determining by the client. For all confirmed topic materiality, check evidence and prudent narrative. Jadi untuk beberapa topik yang sesuai dengan assessment assurer, kita akan lihat evidence dan prudent narratifnya. Untuk topik yang dipilih tidak sesuai dengan assessment dari assurer, kita akan cek dan confirm kepada klien. Bagaimana mereka mendesain hal tersebut. Bagaimana dia mendesain bahwa itu menjadi topik materiality, sedangkan menurut assessment kita, itu tidak merupakan topik materiality. Setelah itu kita gathering the evidence dan recommendation and review context suitability reporting and identify materiality topics clients. Jadi, jika kunci dari suitability reporting adalah bagaimana entitas melakukan pemilihan materiality topik. Jika topik materiality tidak sesuai dengan core bisnisnya, tidak sesuai dengan stakeholders requirement, tidak sesuai dengan isu yang menjadi signifikan isu buat company dan tidak relevan dari bisnisnya, itu menjadi hal yang tanda tanya. Question mark. Kenapa entitas memilih topik sustainability, materiality topik yang tidak sesuai dengan hal-hal tersebut di atas? Jangan sampai sustainability reporting tantangannya adalah greenwashing. Dia membuat sustainability reporting yang bagus, tetapi aktualnya tidak seperti yang dipaparkan. Bagaimana teknologi bisa membantu kita? Sama seperti halnya yang tadi dibahas, audit tools, sustainability reporting assurance. Depannya bagaimana? Apakah hanya sistem itu saja berhenti? Tidak. Kami coba berpikir bahwa suatu saat 5 tahun ke depan mungkin ada yang namanya artificial intelligence audit. Bagaimana artificial intelligence audit itu bisa diimplementasikan dan menggantikan professional judgment. Professional judgment is the process of experience deciding professional matters. How the AI works, identify pattern from prior knowledge to make a decision. This is for example of the audit process, how we can make the artificial intelligence audit. For example, when the process of decide of opinion of the audit matters, gap departure with the gap, general accepted accounting principle, the impact of pervasive and material, decision, modified opinion according to the standard. This is a process repetition we put in the big data training, get the model, new data and case, transaction and problem, and also artificial intelligence can give the prediction or suggestion about the opinion they will give to the client. This is of the process of artificial intelligence. Jadi, jika suatu saat kita menggunakan artificial intelligence, di posisi terakhir reporting kita sudah tahu, oh ada gap departure, decision-nya berdasarkan standard modified opinion, dan itu repetition. Dengan otomatis AI bisa memberikan result bahwa hasil auditnya adalah modified opinion. Itu cuma bagian part dari penentuan bagaimana AI menentukan audit opinion dari sebuah transaksi di perusahaan. One Audit and SR Asia Grade software, integrated audit software, assurance and non-assurance services in the cloud and web basis, practices and educational module. One Audit test project are artificial intelligence audit tools. Jadi ke depannya kita tidak, kita harus bisa beradaptasi, kita harus bisa kolaborasi, dan kita harus punya inovasi. Adaptation the current condition, ESG and digital cyber issue and other accounting profession issues, collaboration with all stakeholders, academics, professional, government, and other stakeholders, and also innovation in digitalization in all changes activities. Always involve technology in our profession. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Wow. Sangat menarik. Saya boleh stop screen dulu?
Ya.
Saya dulu ambil degree dalam business management. Jadi saya dapat accounting itu semester pertama kena remind. Jadi kita saya tak terus lulus dapat D. Karena saya dulu orang sains, orang IPA, masuk
IPA, ya.
ekonomi.
Ekonomi, susah.
Jumpa dengan
Uang.
perkara-perkara yang jurnal lah, income
Jurnal,
statement
ya.
lah, balance sheet lah, apalah, saya pening kepala masa itu. Jadi,
Ya.
ini tapi ketika Pak Lim menjelaskan tadi macam enak, jadi menunjukkan the famous speaker lah, orang berpengalaman. Okay,
Pak.
thank you. Before the second speaker sharing, we go to refreshing first, where I informed before what the song by video will dibuat selepas COVID untuk menyambut tourism. Puan Mazurina pernah lihat video ini mengenai Indonesia? Sudah pernah ke belum? Macam mana you punya komen? Okey ke? itu Atta Halilintar itu YouTuber kelas dunia Indonesia. Dia punya follower puluhan juta orang. Itu hujan jadi ada tadi you lihat tak ada yang pakai batik yang gini sebut kejap aja, itu Minister of Tourism Indonesia. Dia itu financial analyst yang kompeten. Dulu kerja di Singapura, tapi dia sekarang someone the rich man of Indonesia, kandidat wife president Republik Indonesia penggal yang lepas dengan Prabowo, tapi dia tak berjaya. But right now collaboration with Pak Jokowi, therefore Pak Lim bilang tadi kena ada collaboration, innovation, itu sudah dibuat oleh Andi Sandiaga Uno. Okay, right now the second speaker, Associate Prof. Dr. Mazurina Muhammad Ali, senior and famous speaker from the Accounting College of UiTM. Time is you, Puan, please.
Thank you, Pak Reza. I'm not that famous.
No problem. If you want to pantun first or nak sing first, boleh juga.
Actually, I just prepared the slides last night, so not really well prepared. Okay,
no problem.
And the topic that I will share, basically, is about the accounting standard. Can you?
Okay, very clear. So, Special Mission University.
Okay. Actually, when I look at the theme, International Accounting Challenges and Opportunities, I have basically no idea. Puncak Alam, but the main Alam. Alright. So basically, the topic that I would like to share with everyone here is about the Malaysian accounting standards, the challenges and opportunities. So basically, this is really the focus of Malaysia. Okay.
Yeah.
And yes, as Pak Reza mentioned, I am the lecturer in the Faculty of Accountancy in UiTM Puncak Alam. Well, I'm not sure. I'm sorry if my presentation is a bit dull because it's
no problem. Relax, enjoy and fun je.
Okay. So this is the agenda of my presentation. A very simple one, since Pak Reza mentioned only 30 minutes. Okay. The introduction. Okay, and the challenges and opportunities of the accounting standards, and as well as the conclusion. Okay. As for the introduction, I would like to give everyone here the overview of accounting standards in Malaysia. So basically, the accounting standards in Malaysia are issued by the Malaysian Accounting Standard Board, okay, MASB. So basically, MASB is an independent authority. Okay, that now it is the sole authority that issue accounting standard in Malaysia. Okay, and this MASB has been established, okay, under the Financial Reporting Act in 1997. Okay, and the main purpose of MASB is basically to issue accounting and financial reporting standards in Malaysia. Okay, so the other authority that has been established under Financial Reporting Act 1997 is Financial Reporting Foundation. That Financial Reporting Foundation is basically to, there are many functions, okay, of Financial Reporting Foundation, but one of the functions is to monitor the function of MASB. So it's like it comes together, okay, MASB, and it is monitored by Financial Reporting Foundation. So in Malaysia, basically, we have three main accounting standards. Okay, the first one is MPERS. Okay, MPERS is basically stands for Malaysian Private Entity Reporting Standards. Okay, the second one is MFRS, that stands for Malaysian Financial Reporting Standard, and the third one is MPSAS, okay, Malaysian Private Sector Accounting Standard. Okay, so basically, these three accounting standards are developed to cater the different categories of organizations that we have in Malaysia. So for the first and the second one, MPERS and MFRS, they are issued by MASB because they are used by the public and private, private and non-private organizations. Only MPSAS, okay, is issued by the Accountant General's Department and approved by the Accrual Accounting Steering Committee under the Accountant General's Department. So basically, in Malaysia, the syllabus of our accounting students are more focused on the MFRS actually, because it is about reporting by non-private entities. And it has been widely used here. Okay, and of course, public entities, non-private entities, they have to actually disclose their audited financial report, right? So it will be available to everyone. Okay, and also we touch a bit also on the MPERS. This is for private entities. Okay, but yeah, we have like one topic, okay, to cover this MPERS for students. And for MPSAS, basically, we don't really touch on that, okay, to students because maybe we touch generally, in general, not really in specific the sections that we have in the MPSAS, okay. And however, MPSAS is the latest accounting standard, okay. That is why maybe the focus is more, now it is still lacking, but maybe in future, okay, the focus of MPSAS is more, okay, more focused by the universities in Malaysia. So MPSAS is the latest accounting standard being established, which is in the year 2015 as compared to the other two. So the different accounting standards have different scopes and users, but the objectives are the same. So basically, these three accounting standards in Malaysia really play their role in ensuring the users, okay, such as the investors, the lenders, creditors, the contributors, and others, you know, to help them in making decisions about providing resources to the entity. Okay, like I understand that just now Pak Lim has mentioned about the maybe I think the focus is more on the non-financial items, right? ESG and so on. That is basically the current issue in accounting. Okay. So what is MPERS, MFRS, and MPSAS? Okay, so basically, in general, okay, MPERS are for private entities. Okay, this is actually equivalent to the International Financial Reporting Standard for SMEs. Issued by the International Accounting Standard Board. So basically in Malaysia, we adopt and adapt the International Financial Reporting Standard and to suit our Malaysian environment. So MFRS is a self-contained standards with 35 sections covering all relevant areas for financial reporting by private entities. So these 35 sections ranging from the first adoption of the MPERS up until financial instrument and so on. So for the private entities, normally in Malaysia, the private entities is actually referring to SME, okay, small medium enterprises. So they will actually adopt and follow these MPERS. And they need to cover they need to actually follow the guidelines now and suit to their business, the nature of business. So MPERS attempts to meet the user's needs while balancing the cost and benefits to preparers. Okay, and in February 2014, the MASB issued MPERS with effective for financial statements with annual periods beginning on or after 1st January 2016. So basically, in other words, the full implementation or adoption of MPERS was on the 1st of January 2016. Okay, before that, the Malaysian private entities, they have other standards, which is a private entity reporting standard without the alphabet M in front. Okay, and at that time, okay, the private entities have the options to adopt whether PERS or the MFRS. Okay, and they have to, if they choose to follow PERS, they have to follow PERS in its entirety, and if they choose to follow MFRS, they have to follow in its entirety. But since MPERS has been introduced and been implemented to be used and to be adopted after 1st January 2016, and this will give an indicator to all the SMEs in Malaysia to adopt, okay, MPERS, only MPERS without having any options to adopt other standards. Okay. And then the Malaysian Financial Reporting Standards, okay, this is applicable to non-private entities. Okay, this is equivalent to International Financial Reporting Standard issued by the International Accounting Standard Board. So in this MFRS, in Malaysia, it is called Malaysian Financial Reporting Standard, and it has 42 standards covering all relevant areas of financial reporting by non-private entities. And it has came into effect from 1st January 2012. Okay, so the announcement for the adoption of for the fully convergence of Malaysian of the International Financial Reporting Standard has been announced since 1st January 2008, and 4 years later, it fully came into effect. Okay, and nowadays, basically, we have actually fully implemented and adopted and adapted, okay, fully the International Financial Reporting Standard to suit Malaysian environment. And the third one is Malaysian Private Sector Accounting Standard. This is basically applicable to public sector entities other than government business enterprises. Okay, this is drawn primarily from the International Public Sector Accounting Standards, IPSAS, issued by the International Public Sector Accounting Standards Board. Okay, and there are 38 MPSAS sections issued by the Accountant General's Department, and the federal statutory bodies determines that its date of adoption of MPSAS is on 1st January 2018. Okay, so if you look at the timeline, okay, the main focus is for the MFRS to be adopted since 2012, followed by MPERS in 2016 and MPSAS in 2018. Okay, and who should apply? Okay, MPERS, MFRS, and MPSAS. So, like I said, MPERS is focusing on the private entity. So, a private entity is a private company as defined by Companies Act 2016 in Section 2 that is not itself required to prepare or lodge any financial statements under any law administered by the Securities Commission Malaysia or Bank of Malaysia, and is not a subsidiary or associate of or jointly controlled by an entity which is required to under any law administered by the Securities Commission Malaysia or Bank Negara Malaysia, and not prepare or lodge any financial statements to PLC or not a related company to PLC. So basically, it is really a private entity in which the company do not have to lodge the financial report or financial statements to make it available publicly. Okay, but it has lodged the financial statement to Securities Commission only. So if let's say we want to do research about private entities, we normally have to we have to do some we have to put some effort lah to actually get the annual report, okay, of the private entities, and we need to go to Securities Commission, and sometimes we sometimes if you are not lucky, we need to buy the annual report. Okay, this is not it is not free to get that information. Okay, for the MFRS, okay, the entities other than private entities shall apply the MFRS framework, okay, on or after 1st January 2012. So of course, after the year 2012, there were a transition period, okay, transition period for companies to adopt and adapt, okay, the new standard. And for the MPSAS, it is for public sector entities other than the government business enterprises. So the GBEs are entities with this criteria. Okay, the entity with the power to contract in its own name has been assigned a financial and operational authority to carry on the business, sells goods and services in the normal course of its business. It's not reliant on continuing government funding to be a going concern, and is controlled by a public sector entity. Okay, so therefore, these five characteristics of a company known as GBEs are not entitled under this standard. Okay. Now, the challenges and opportunities of accounting standard, I think basically, even though this is basically, you know, focusing on the Malaysian environment, but I think maybe some of the challenges and opportunities are also might be relevant to the Indonesian capital market. Okay. So for the first one is about the challenges of adopting Malaysian Financial Reporting Standard, okay, the MFRS. Okay, basically because of the issue of complexity. So Malaysian Financial Reporting Standard is based on IFRS, which are complex and comprehensive accounting standards. So this can make it challenging for entities to understand and apply the requirements of MFRS. So therefore, to overcome this, okay, we adopted and adapted the International Financial Reporting Standard first stage by stage, okay, one by one, okay, and now we are actually concentrating on the agricultural standard, okay. In terms of the interpretation, okay, being principle-based standards, okay, the interpretation in the IFRS was often left to the accounting profession themselves. Hence, it was likely that the IFRS will be interpreted and applied inconsistently within and among countries that had adopted it. So the aim of a global comparability in financial reports might not be realized, and that's in the IFRS will not apply in a uniform and consistent manner. So this is basically the worry, okay, of adopting and adapting. The full convergence of international financial reporting standard to suit the Malaysian environment. Okay. And in terms of the resources, okay, by implementing Malaysian Financial Reporting Standard, it may require additional resources, okay, including skilled personnel to ensure that financial information is prepared in accordance with the standards. The ability of accounting staff to operationalize international accounting standards in developing countries was also questionable. Okay, like for example, the change of the revenue standard. Okay, now we are following IFRS, which is IFRS 15. In Malaysia, it is called MFRS 15. So basically, whatever numbers that has been listed under IFRS will be adopted in Malaysia. So if it is IFRS 15, so in Malaysia it is MFRS 15. It's just the alphabet change. Okay, so the first adoption of MFRS 15 that was taken place on the 1st of January 2018. Okay, so that was actually a new standard, okay, for the companies to actually adopt and to implement those the standard. Before that, the companies are actually following the old standard, which is MFRS 118. Okay, and by implementing a new standard, it is actually gives some challenges to the organization. For example, MFRS 15, okay, a revenue standard from revenue recognition, okay, revenue recognition standards. Okay, that standards was basically impacted more on the telecommunication industry. So we have actually interviewed the manager in the telecommunication company in Malaysia, and we asked about the transition from the old standard to the new standard. Okay. So here, basically, of course, there are many factors that contributed to that, to the acceptance, okay, of the changes. Okay, of course, the old employees, they were basically reluctant, okay, to adopt, and they don't want to learn, because if you change to something new, of course you need to upskill yourself. You need to have upgrade your knowledge about the new standard and so on. So the challenges is in terms of the ability of the accounting staff in the company itself to operationalize the new standards that has been introduced. Okay. Another challenges is about the judgment and estimates. So MFRS requires entities to make judgments and estimates in areas such as fair value measurements, impairment of assets, and recognition of revenue, which can be complex and subjective. This is what I have mentioned. One of the examples is about the revenue. Okay, so it is quite complicated because the changes in the accounting standard to in line with the International Financial Reporting Standard and to be adopted in Malaysian environment, not only given us a challenge in terms of adopting itself, but also the challenge to the organization who have to adopt and who have to implement those standards, okay, because of many factors that will actually influence, okay, the adoption or the implementation. Okay, because of the reluctance by the employees, the knowledge that they have not up to the level, and then also the system. Okay, the system, because if you change the standard, the systems might as well need to be changed. Okay. However, apart from the challenges that I've mentioned, okay, there are also, of course, opportunities of the standard. Okay, in this particular slide is about MFRS for the public entities. Okay, the advantage is reduction or elimination of setup costs for developing a national accounting system. So we don't have to crash our mind to think about, and to incur a lot of costs to think about the national accounting system. For your information, yes, previously, so many years back, okay, like I think in the 1950s, 1960s, like that, we actually have issued our own standard for a Malaysian accounting standard, MAS. Okay, but we have actually accounting standard previously, but then once we became the member of the International Accounting Standard Committee, we at that particular point started to adopt the International Accounting Standard. Okay. And then the next advantages of MFRS is to improve transparency and accountability. So Malaysian Financial Reporting Standard requires companies to disclose more information about their financial performance, which can increase transparency and accountability. This can help build investor confidence and support the growth of the capital markets. I understand that nowadays people or the stakeholders are more towards non-financial information, in which it is more on the integrated reporting, more on the the sustainability reporting, value reporting. But the bottom line is actually the financial report, the financial information. But of course, we do not actually.
There is 3 minutes more.
Yeah.
There is 3 minutes again.
3 minit.
Ya. Masnya sudah mau habis.
Yeah, okay. I thought belum sampai 30 minit. Okay. And greater comparability and transparency in financial statements, okay, and then better risk management, okay, access to international market, as well as improved corporate governance. So basically, these are all embedded into the adoption and implementation of the MFRS. Okay. For the MPERS, okay, the challenges for private entities, okay, in implementing MPERS are basically, the cost. Okay, of course, because private entities, they are basically ranges from small small, medium, okay, small, medium entities, okay, small to medium. So of course, in terms of resources, there are a lack of the resources. So to adopt a new reporting framework will inevitably require cost. So therefore, they have to have the cost, like it is costly. And in terms of complexity, so MPERS is a comprehensive financial reporting framework, okay, very complex and very challenging for private entities, particularly those with limited resources or expertise. So study on this, look at the the challenges of the small medium enterprise in terms of adopting and implementing MPERS. And then in the MPERS also we have undue cost of effort term. So this is a term that is particularly focused on the company do not have to actually apply particular requirement if the cost is more than effort. Okay, no, the effort is more than the cost. Okay, so that is undue cost of effort. And in terms of interpretation, also need to have professional judgment and interpretation, and sometimes it can be misleading and have inconsistency. Okay. This is the transition plan for MPSAS. So by 2016, the state government moved to accrual accounting. So the issue of MPSAS for public sector is about the accrual accounting. Okay. However, we'll talk about the opportunities or the advantage of MPSAS first. Okay, by changing from the cash basis to accrual accounting basis, it will provide the information on the full cost of government services, which is vital when considering alternative for service deduction. Okay, so it is good for the government agencies. So the transformation will also provide sustainability, provide better measure of policies effect, improve organizational efficiency and effectiveness. Okay, and then it is claimed that the use of accrual-based accounting may reduce corruption. Okay, because well, before this we use cash basis. Now we use accrual-based, so maybe it can reduce the occurrence of corruption. Besides, accrual-based accounting is to be implemented in Malaysian public sector as it can determine the full cost of the whole government activities. Okay. However, there are many challenges, okay, in adopting and implementing MPSAS in the government sector. Okay, based on studies by Harun and Robinson in Indonesia and Tickle and Fiji and PwC Malaysia, among the challenges and barriers in adopting accrual accounting are legal issues, lack of political support, inadequately skilled human resources, high labor turnover, insufficient investment in capital equipment, and incompatible information technology system. So there are many challenges faced by government sectors to adopt MPSAS. And the adoption period also very limited, as compared to other countries. So this is also one of the challenges for the government to actually adopt and implement MPSAS. In terms of the system and skills also will be a challenge, to the government, because they need to integrate a new system to cater the accrual-based system because before this cash basis. So to cater the accrual accounting method, so they have to integrate new system, and of course it needs to be also equipped with skilled people to do so, and of course not to forget the cost. Okay. And related to accounting policies as well, so the government also needs to make selection on the appropriate accounting policies that are relevant to the local accounting standard. Okay, changes in information system where the implementation of accrual-based accounting involve changes a wide range of information system. So, well, this is not only require a cost to have a new system or to upgrade the system or to change the system, but also cost to send the employees or the human resources for training and so on. So it will incur cost, and this that is why the transition from cash basis to accrual accounting basis took so many time. Okay, and however, this need to be done, because it is believed that accrual-based accounting in public sector can provide more efficient and effective fiscal management, and better government financial reporting. And this will subsequently lead to increased transparency and accountability of the government financial statement or financial reporting. And the process had forced the accountants of governmental financial reporting to develop the strategies to ensure successful implementation of accrual-based accounting in the public sector. Okay, and And for the conclusion, okay, Malaysian Accounting Standard, this is not a standard, I just mentioned Malaysian Accounting Standard because I am referring to the standards I have already explained earlier. Okay, of course, there are a number of challenges and opportunities for businesses and accounting professionals operating in Malaysia. Okay, and on one hand, adopting the accounting standard can help promote greater financial transparency, consistency, and comparability in financial reporting. Okay, but on the other hand, the implementation of the accounting standard requires significant resources and expertise, which can be a challenge for smaller firms. Okay, and to successfully navigate the challenges and opportunities presented by the accounting standard, businesses and accounting professionals should stay informed about updates and changes to the accounting to the relevant accounting standards. Invest in training and professional development to build their accounting knowledge and skills, and seek guidance from experts when needed. And in addition to that, collaboration and cooperation between regulators, businesses, and other stakeholders will be crucial to ensuring that the accounting standards are implemented effectively and efficiently, while also meeting the needs and interests of all parties involved. Okay, so I guess that's all my presentation. Okay.
Wow, wow.
Thank you very much.
Ini dalam masa yang peak time pun macam ini, macam mana kalau dapat masa yang lebih banyak? Very interesting. Dalam masa yang limited saja sudah buat macam ini banyak, apalagi kalau masanya banyak ya.
Cukup.
Jadi saya tadi very glad look your son is very handsome. I think like he's like his apa dad kayaknya ya. Jadi tapi saya belum mengenali lagi. Salamlah untuk your husband, okay? Baik. Sebelumnya saya bagi tahu sudah beberapa pertanyaan sudah masuk dalam email saya. Saya mau bacakan pertanyaan itu untuk the first speaker dan second speaker. Tapi sebelumnya saya mau memberitahu Pak Lim, mungkin belum tahu, UiTM ini sebuah perguruan tinggi IPTA atau PTN di Indonesia bilang, itu yang unik sekali Pak. Jadi maksudnya unik begini, dia ini saking istimewanya, dia ada di seluruh negara Malaysia, seluruh negeri, seluruh provinsi. Jadi malah satu negeri bisa lebih dari satu kampus. Jadi dia punya kampus mungkin 30 lebih dan punya mahasiswa lebih 100.000 barangkali. Nah, jadi itu hebatnya UiTM. Dan saya lihat kalau di kampus lain, fakulti accounting program studi itu dalam fakulti of business dan economic. Tapi kalau UiTM di fakulti tersendiri. Jadi makanya dia ini calon profesor akunting nih, Puan Mazrina nih, masa hadapan lah. Okay. I will to read the question in my email. There is some question for the all speaker, but usually I chose 2 person only. Jadi 2 pertanyaan sahaja untuk setiap speaker mewakili daripada participant. Okay, the first speaker. Ini dari Nia. Very good sharing Pak Lim about a new role of accountant. Okay. Saat ini kita telah berada di dunia digital. Bagaimana peluang dan tantangan bagi calon akuntan masa mendatang? Apakah selain hard skill, ada soft skill yang perlu kami persiapkan sebagai mahasiswa yang bercita-cita ingin menjadi smart accountant? Itu pertanyaan nomor 1 dari Nia. Kemudian dari Dwi. Baru-baru ini kita menyaksikan suatu kasus di mana seorang pejabat pajak dengan lihai menyembunyikan uang dan emas di luar sistem akuntansi bank, sehingga terhindar dari pelacakan PPATK. Apakah memang sangat mudah menghindari pajak dalam hal seseorang punya banyak equity dan atau aset? Bagaimana pandangan Pak Lim? Okay. This is 2 question only for you. Saya hanya ambil 2, ada beberapa. Tapi sebelum you jawab, saya nak baca pertanyaan untuk Puan Mazurina, dari Putri, dan satu lagi nanti dari Nurdi. Very interesting sharing, Associate Puan Mazurina. I get the new knowledge today. Okay. Belum lama ini dunia dikejutkan ketika Silicon Valley Bank collapse, and Credit Suisse Bank get the crisis yang mendalam. Bagaimana boleh berlaku perkara ini apabila dilihat dari seorang akuntan? Adakah bank accounting problem regarding both phenomenon? Oke, kemudian nomor 2 dari Nurdi. Di Indonesia ada case akuntan publik official kena penalti dan siasat oleh polis atas report yang tak sesuai. Apakah di Malaysia pernah ada case seperti itu? Apakah akuntan yang dapat punishment dari court and government masih boleh melanjutkan profesionnya di Malaysia? Lagi sama satu nih, apa yang spesifik in UiTM Faculty of Accounting were different with another accounting department university in Malaysia? Ini macam nak masuk kuliah dekat sana kot, ambil master ke PhD. Okey, Pak Lim jawab dulu dalam 5-6 minit untuk 2 pertanyaan itu.
Ya, terima kasih Pak. Untuk pertanyaan pertama soal hard skill and soft skill. Ya, dua itu harus ada untuk akuntan ke depan. Hard skill dalam arti standar akuntansi harus ngerti yang paling basic ya. Basically itu basic accounting-nya pun harus kuat. Saya pernah bertanya, waktu itu saya menghantar saya punya keponakan ke salah satu universitas. Saya tanya ke dekannya, bagaimana dari kampus untuk mengantisipasi perubahan standar akuntansi yang begitu cepat. Jawabannya cuma satu, basicnya harus kuat. Karena ketika basic kuat, standar berubah, logic accounting itu akan tetap sama. Aset tetap sebelah debit, ya, pendapatan sebelah kredit, beban sebelah debit, seperti itu. Sebelah kredit itu basicnya tetap sama. Tinggal bagaimana dibungkus dari sebuah transaksi menjadi standar yang baru. Nah, jadi hard skill harus tetap ada. Soft skill-nya termasuk penggunaan software dan sebagainya. Itu sudah tidak bisa tidak, digitalisasi juga sudah tidak bisa tidak. Juga bagaimana kita bisa menyampaikan diri dan mengkomunikasikan serta menempatkan accountant sebagai partner of business, bukan staff only. In the company, owner itu akan berpikir bahwa accounting is only the cost center. Iya, administrasi saja. Tapi tidak seperti itu. We have put our position as a partner of the business. We can give any advice for the new transaction. We can give any advice for the tax impact. Jadi kita
strategic analysis of business to the future.
Iya, betul. Jadi jangan sampai bisnis jalan setelah itu rugi karena ada penalti pajak dan lain sebagainya. Jadi hard skill dan soft skill. Untuk pertanyaan kedua terkait dengan orang pajak yang punya aset sebegitu banyak, sebetulnya memang bukan pajaknya yang ke pemerintah yang digelapkan, tetapi memang dia sudah membentuk sistem, menurut saya ya, karena saya berpraktek dan juga saya menemukan hal seperti itu. Mereka memang membuat sistem itu membuat kita menjadi di posisi seperti salah dan kita menyerah. Ketika kita menyerah, kita akan melakukan segalanya dengan cara memberikan sogokan dan lain sebagainya. Tapi ketika kita menjadi accountant yang memang sudah benar, transaksi yang kita lakukan benar, dokumentasi benar, fight sampai pengadilan. Jangan sampai kasih kesempatan untuk kasih uang dan lain sebagainya. Uang yang dia punya, safe deposit sampai 38 miliar atau 2,5 juta US dollar, ya diperoleh dari hal-hal seperti itu. Jadi kita sebagai accountant ya kita jalan yang lurus benar, praktek akuntansi yang benar, pajak yang benar, dia buat salah, karena di Indonesia yang benar aja salah, apalagi salah untuk teksnya. Jadi kita harus fight untuk
Iya,
gitu.
iya, betul, Pak. Jadi soft skill itu yang Bapak sebut salah satu honesty itu, Pak ya. Jadi
Ya,
jangan sampai
betul.
jadi jangan sampai membela yang bayar ya, tapi membela yang
Ya,
benar ya.
betul. Jangan sampai.
Okay, thank you for smart answer. Puan, before you answer, mana Puan Mazrina kena pergi bilik air ke macam mana? Okay, Puan, before you jawab, tadi Pak Lim kata, Encik Lim kata supaya akuntan itu dia harus betul-betul apa namanya itu dia percaya diri lah kalau dia sudah buat report yang betul, dokumen yang supporting siap. Dan jadi di Indonesia itu Pak ada lagu begini, maju tak gentar membela yang benar, maju serentak pasti kita menang. Itu ada lagu macam itu Pak.
Betul.
Tapi sekarang lagu itu sudah ditukar menjadi maju tak gentar membela yang bayar. Itu udah susah pula. Jadi dia bukan bela yang benar, bela yang bayar. Ini perkara ini. Oke, Puan, boleh jawab 2 question for you.
Okay, actually apa ni I tak dapat sangat soalan tu, but basically the first question is about how Silicon Valley Bank's crash, isn't it?
Macam mana itu boleh berlaku? Ada ke accounting administration di situ tersilap atau ada sesuatu?
Okay, well, maybe there must be some reason why. Okay, the crash could lead to maybe we need to have a more regulatory scrutiny lah. Okay, regulatory scrutiny and the need for the company.
Probability-nya apa kiranya boleh berlaku? Probability-nya itu dia tidak code of conduct not confirm ke macam mana kira-kira lah?
Well, maybe I'm not sure. Maybe about the governance of the banks, or maybe about the the misleading. Okay, or the what do we call the misleading lah. The misleading act. Okay, misleading act. Okay, by the person involved in that situation. Okay, of course, well, I'm not really actually know about the issue yet, okay, because it is very new. Okay, but then we need to actually look at the, I would say, the governance as well as the regulation. We need to scrutinize in terms of the regulation whether it is enough, okay, to have that, or maybe to increase the regulation, okay, to improve the financial reporting as well as the internal controls, okay, of the organization. Okay, so I think the risk management is very important. Okay, because by I think the risk management and internal control, okay, is very important. Prevent it happening, even though it is not 100%, can be controlled. Okay, so that is my opinion lah. Okay, the second one is about what? The second one is the
profession of accounting in Malaysia.
If they have any cases there. So well, they have to actually gone through investigation, okay, the investigation by the authority to investigate they are actually doing some investigation because dia kena luput lah jawatan, okay, luput jawatan dan tidak dapat sama lagi
Okay.
dengan zaman ya.
Okay. Tadi dia tanya what the different accounting of UiTM rather than
Different.
the different advantage or accounting in UiTM advantage.
At what?
What the advantage of accounting
Okay.
department in
So
UiTM?
I'm not bragging this, but well, it is known in Malaysia that in UiTM we have several niche area, okay, several niche degree lah. Okay, so one of them is accounting. Okay, so if you can actually do accounting in UiTM, yeah, you are really smart now. Okay, and in terms of the another difference is that like Pak Reza has mentioned just now, accounting in UiTM stands alone. Okay, we are actually standing alone in our own faculty, which is called Faculty of Accountancy, and other universities have that kind of faculty. Normally, they have the accounting department within business faculty or economics faculties, things like that. And our graduates, our Bachelor of Accountancy graduates are very demanded, okay, by the employers. Okay, like 80 to 90% once they graduated, they will get a job. Okay,
Are you alumni of UiTM?
Yes, I did my degree and masters of accountancy UiTM and my PhD in Australia, but not because of that, Pak Reza. Not because of that. But
no, you can to answer. Look me, you know what about UiTM accounting. You must be to talk. Look me, okay ke alumni accounting UiTM. You bagi tahu macam tu aja. You look me lah. Kalau you lihat IFM macam tu. Okay. Lah, thank you.
And then if let's say the audience here, if you are not having any master's degree yet, and you are an accounting student, I welcome you to further your studies in UiTM lah. Three different master degree.
Insyaallah. Is it someone of the Prof Fauziah student, right? Macamnya lah.
Ada sih, Prof
Faiza. Okay. Before closing remark, we go to the last song, but this is the Malaysian side. The song, the singer from Malaysia. But
atas kesempatan yang diberikan kepada saya di sini pertama kali. Salam kenal untuk Pak Syahrul Reza dan juga Dr. Mazurina. Semoga ke depan kita bisa menjalin kerjasama yang lain. Terima kasih.
Ya, saya berharap ini sebenarnya ALC event gate untuk memperjumpakan lecturer in ASEAN countries, and then I hope you can to collaboration continue with Richard Grant and as a lecturer exchange and so on. Kan? Jadi boleh hantar email in chat box supaya boleh communication terus. Okay, Wan, closing remark 1-2 minit. You nak guna pantun ke apa terserah lah. Apa boleh.
I pandai pantun.
Okay,
Ini thank you to Pak Reza. At last we meet online. 3 times, right? This is the 3 times you asked me to do the sharing session. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I think this is a good platform for us to share our sedikit knowledge lah, okay, to the audience. Okay, I hope we can do more collaboration later lah. Okay, maybe this is just a starting point. Okay, and later maybe we can do more in terms of collaboration. Okay.
Right. I hope you boleh join lagi. Jangan kapok, kata orang Jakarta. Kapok itu jangan jera. Karena jangan jera karena di-invite untuk sharing lagi ya. Jadi
Okay. Terima kasih.
Oke, terima kasih.